I'm going to introduce Rainer, who I worked with a long time on IIIF related projects. As I mentioned earlier, he's been involved in a lot of the annotation functionality of IIIF and has generated some really, really cool tools. And one of them he's going to show is IIIF Live. So if I pass over to you, Rainer. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, so thanks, Glenn, for the opportunity to chat a little bit about life. I just share my screen. I have a few slides, and then afterwards we can play with the tool hands-on. So, Glenn, you told me that the audience may have brought some Life manifest URLs. So I invite you to already share those maybe in the chat so we can use one of your manifests to play with those and do some some experimental collaborative annotation through life. So sharing the screen. Right, you should see the screen now. Yeah, right. Um, yeah. So yeah, as I said, first of all, thanks for the opportunity to talk a little bit about live. I actually checked and I presented live the first time in one of the IIIF community meetings, and that was almost exactly 1 year ago. So the tool has been around for some time. Some things have changed. So yeah, it's nice to kind of revisit this and be able to talk a little bit about the new things and introduce those who haven't seen the tool before. But before that, maybe a few words about myself. So my name is Rainer Simon. I'm a freelance software developer based in Vienna in Austria. And I've been working in the digital humanities for more than a decade now. I haven't been a freelancer all of my life. So before that, I worked as a research software engineer for a local research institution here, but pretty much always worked in digital humanities and libraries and archives. And also from early on, I would say, on IIIF and annotation tooling. I'm also an open source person, so I use open source a lot. I love open source, and I'm also the maintainer of some open source projects of my own, including Liive. So Liive is open source software. And another one that I want to mention is Annotorious. So that is a JavaScript library for building annotation interfaces. So it's aimed at developers, but it's also at the basis of many of my own projects, including Liive. So that's also what most of the things that you see in Liive is really just an application of Annotorious. And I also have a website, so if you want to find out a little bit more about me, reinersimon.io. It's not a big website, but you'll find contact details and a couple of reference projects, so you can see what else I'm working on. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive into IIIF. So I don't need to explain what IIIF is anymore to this group, obviously. So it has, to me, it's always been exciting to see the ecosystem grow so much over the past years. And today you have millions of items available online and lots of software, most of it open source. It has a truly healthy ecosystem of image viewers and servers. Okay, I should have started the animation earlier. So yeah, healthy ecosystem of open source stuff around IIIF. What I always felt was that what was maybe missing a little bit was so on the one hand, the viewers are all built for solo exploration, which is fine, of course, because that's usually what you want. If you're an institution, you want to embed a viewer so that people can look at the image. And if you're a scholar, maybe you want to just work alone on a source. But also with my technical hat on and being a curious person, I always thought it would really be nice to have something like Google Docs for IIIF. So where you could like see together with other people, you could explore an image, see where everybody is, make notes, make annotations, reply to other people. So I thought that was really kind of a gap maybe, but definitely something that excited me as an idea to build. I think it was also maybe still a little bit the case that there are fewer tools in IIIF that are specific to research, teaching, collaboration. So that's maybe not quite true anymore. So there is tools for scholarly annotation. There's also more institutional tools available for annotation. But still, I think it's still kind of an area where new tools can be beneficial. Um, And with that, I want to just dive right into the tool. So what you see here is a screenshot, and we're gonna try this out just in a moment ourselves. So this is what Liive looks like, and it looks a little bit, it's kind of reminds you of Google Docs here, where you can see other people's cursors. You can see what people have been selecting, and down here you have a little bar which shows you which users are currently working on a document. So it's kind of a similar real-time annotation cooperative experience. Before we dive in, maybe just a little bit of terminology, because I think it's kind of important to know that in advance. So Liive has a concept of a room. That's kind of the central element. The image that you saw is a room in Liive. So what is a room? So a room is the name for one collaborative session for a IIIF object. So if you paste a URL to a presentation manifest into Liive, you get a room. So that's really just your own personal space. And this room has its own unique URL. It's kind of decoupled from the manifest URL. And that URL you can share with other people, and then they will enter your room and you will be working on that manifest together with them. Every room is public at the moment. So for teaching, one of the frequent kind of requests was that you want to be able to close rooms. So that might be coming in the future. I'm pretty sure it will come in the future. But for now, every room is simply public, so everybody can participate. You do not have to log in, so it's really completely open. If you come in anonymously, it will just pop up a small window which asks you to enter a username, which is really just a label so that people see something, a nickname that's attached to your cursor. But otherwise, it does not require a login. You can log in with a Google and a GitHub account, and that won't make much of a difference. You just get a little dashboard which keeps track of which rooms you created and which rooms you've visited, so that you don't need to bookmark those yourself. But that's really just for convenience. And finally, each room is temporary. That's not quite correct, but mostly rooms are temporary, so they auto delete after a while, but we'll get to that later as well. Right, and with that, I would say let's just take a look. Feel free to already visit this URL, liive.now. That's a website which runs my personal instance of Liive. I'll also come visit in a second. So, to dashboard. So, and I already have one link here in the chat to a manifest, first come, first serve. So thank you, Erica. I'll use this one. So what I'm doing, I simply paste the manifest URL into the search field, and it's going to be validated briefly so that you can see whether it's actually loading correctly into Liive, and it does. I click the button, and now we get a room. And this up here is the room URL, or you can also get it in the user interface here. So I'll copy it, and I'll also paste this one into the chat now. And if you're online, I invite you to join this room, and let's see who's coming. The first people already. So, right, excellent. Glenn's already here. Let's see if other people come in. Right. So, yeah, in terms of the functionality, it's really simple, right? So up here in the top right, you have a list of drawing tools like rectangle, polygon, circle, and some other tools I'm going to get to in a moment. So in principle, it really doesn't do much. You just select a tool, you drag a shape, and you start writing a comment. So once you have a comment, you can also reply. Also, feel free to just chip in and reply to my comment if you want, or draw something yourself. And that's mostly it, right? So it's very simple. It's really about viewing and creating annotations together. The sorry, the polygon tool, just to say briefly, you kind of add points. We already have a polygon. You add points, and if you want to close the polygon, either you go to the starting point again, or you double click, and that will create a polygon. If you want to delete an annotation, simply up here again, and that's that. There's also a line tool, or a path tool as it's called. So this allows you to draw open lines. So you could close it, then it's really just a polygon. Or alternatively, you double click and it will draw just a line shape. What's kind of special about the line tool is you can, so let's just select it. If you select one of the corners, you can create those kind of spline curved lines. So you can also create kind of curved shapes with that. Okay, so that's mostly about the tools up here. I'm gonna go to the Smart Scissors tool just in a moment. Up here on the top left, you have some additional controls, which are either for the image or the room. So of course, not much to say about here. So if you want to prefer zooming with buttons rather than your mouse wheel, you have zoom buttons here. You can also rotate the image. I think on mobile, you should actually be able to rotate the image freely with a finger gesture. And this up here is X-ray mode. If you have something that's annotated very densely or doesn't have too much contrast to the background image, that's simply a view mode which kind of darkens the image and makes the annotations more visible so you can see more easily where the annotations are. Then up here, you can go back to the dashboard or leave your room. Then here, those are the sharing options. At the moment, what you can see here is simply the URL to the room, which I showed you already. Afterwards, I'll talk a little bit more because there's also a way to get a manifest URL for that, but I'm gonna talk about that in a moment. Last but not least, this here is important, of course, that's export. So you can always export your annotations in two formats. So either as an annotation list just for the canvas that you're viewing right now, or you can download a presentation manifest. The manifest that you get is essentially a copy of the original manifest with the annotations from Liiive inlined or like merged into that manifest. So it's kind of a derivative manifest. Okay, yeah. And then last element is down here, bottom left. So that, as you can see, is just your average page navigator. It also, the information button will simply show the basic information from the manifest metadata. And more importantly, if you click the expand icon, you get a thumbnail strip. And the thumbnail strip, as you can see here, is also, it also has these kind of presence icons, so you can see who is currently viewing which canvas. So let's go here, and we have Greta here, for example. Yeah, I think I missed this one here. So down here at bottom right, there's also kind of a tiny version of this. So you can see which people are kind of to the left and to the right of you currently. So if I go here to an image to a page where I'm alone, I can see that on the lower numbered pages, there's a bunch of people here, and on the higher pages, there's one user. And I think, let me just check. That might not yet be implemented so that I can jump directly. But yeah, if you want to jump to where the action is currently is, then yeah, you can do it with a thumbnail strip. But one thing I just wanted to show you briefly was the last drawing tool. I was just looking for a suitable page here. Maybe this one, perhaps. Yeah. So sometimes if you want to trace a complex shape, there is a little helper tool here called Smart Scissors. It works a little bit, maybe not as good, but it works a little bit like this kind of Photoshop tool, which automatically traces the outlines of shapes. So you just start. So I click once and it has to compute a little. And then as you drag your mouse, it will automatically follow the contours of an object. And sometimes it gets lost a little bit, so then you can add kind of, you click again, and then you freeze a point in place. I think we have a question. Yeah, feel free. There was a hand was raised briefly, I think.
No, sorry, Rainer. You can go on. Then I'll ask my question.
Okay, so yeah, It will come back, I'm sure. So let's just close this quickly. Right. And this way you can, you can trace more complex shapes more quickly. You can also, of course, always edit your shapes. I haven't really shown that. So if you have a polygon, you can select individual points. You can drag them around, or you can also delete them with the delete key. Or you can add new points in between 2 points by grabbing this kind of hover, this kind of ghost point. And this way you can refine your shapes as you go. Right, and I think that's really everything there is to say about the user interface as such. Anything else I missed? I don't think so. Yeah, maybe just let's go back briefly to the dashboard. So as I said, the dashboard is something that you have as soon as you log in with your Google account or your GitHub account. More options will be coming in the future. So this was what it looks like. In this case, you can just see that I already have one room. And also you can see which rooms I visited. And what I just wanted to mention briefly is this little settings dialog here. So as I told you before that the rooms are temporary, you can actually set them to permanent. That's possible. So now there is no kind of countdown anymore. In this instance here, that's the instance that I run personally, you only can do this on one storage space. But of course, Liive is open source, so if you self-host, there is obviously no restriction. But just so that you know that there is only one permanent storage space on the live.now website. There's also an option here which is new, which is called open or read only. So that's something which I think is also nice if you want to work on this by yourself or with a group and then kind of make it publicly visible. You can set the room to read only. I'm not going to do this right now, but you can set it to read only. And that means people can still use the URL to visit the room and look at everything, see the annotations. They just cannot create any additional annotations anymore. And they can also not reply to any of the comments. Only you as the creator of the room will always have kind of the privileges to create new annotations and to reply to comments. So that's just for the creator of the room. Right, and if I go back to permanent, then you can see here, so we had a countdown clock here, that's now gone. And also the share, if you click the share icon, you can now see that there is a IIIF manifest URL. So that's a live manifest. It's exactly the same that you can also download, but it now has a URL. And if I open it, you can see, you can see it is the same manifest as the original, but with the annotations copied in. So maybe let's try opening this in Theseus in another viewer. Yeah, okay. I'll give it one more try, but this might be kind of the demonstration effect. So, okay, at least the manifest loads. Let's see whether there are any annotations. Yeah, so we do have some annotations. But doesn't look like there are all. So I think Mirador may not support some of the shapes. Let's see where else we have annotations. On page 4. Ah, yeah. Okay, I look into the thesis issues, but in principle, yeah, it's a live manifest. It's online, and for the most part, at least, you should be able to just view it in any viewer. Good. Switching back to my slides. Yeah, maybe just kind of a little pitch. So who is it for? Yeah, I guess it's also a matter of seeing who picks it up. But in principle, the way I thought about it was that it would be either for scholars to simply discuss image materials together or maybe people working with things like damage assessment of sources or whatever, so that you could just be talking to your colleagues like you're in the same room. Also, I think it might be useful for education if you run a class with students. You might hand out assignments, you might ask students to create annotations on a specific topic or whatever. And yeah, finally, I think it might also be nice as for people who build tools with IIIF. It's very easy to add, for example, a button which says "Open this manifest in Liive." So you know those kind of buttons exist for Mirador and Universal Viewer, so you can do just the same thing with Liive. You can directly link in there. You also, when you do that, you have the option to either let Liive spawn a new room for every person who clicks that link, or there's also a possibility that you can send everybody to the same room, which is also kind of nice. If you have a small collection, you might want to open up a room, and then every visitor of your site gets in the same room, and you can kind of collect contributions in one space for one object in your collection. As I said, yeah, I think virtual classroom sessions are one idea, the annotate with Live button, or simply drop a manifest link in and annotate, because when I built it, I also was often looking for just an easy solution for myself to create some annotations on a manifest. And usually it required a little bit of wriggling, like put the manifest link or host the manifest yourself and or set up a tool or run it locally. And I always felt there should be a website where I just paste the link and I can create annotations. And even if you work alone, and many people actually are working alone, as far as I can see from the traffic, it's easy. It's there. You can get your yeah. It's free. You can simply download the annotations. You have one permanent free space on the Liive website. So doesn't have to be collaborative necessarily to be useful. As far as kind of my own background with this goes, it has a completely open roadmap. And just to say, it started as a hobby project and it is still a hobby project mostly. I built it out of curiosity on the one hand, because I was kind of missing an easy thing and a collaborative thing, and simply because I wanted to see kind of how to build a live collaborative system as well. So it was also the technical challenge that lured me into building this. That's also why it's pretty basic. So we'll see how it progresses. If anyone comes along that wants to support more development on this, I'd be very excited if that were the case, or if somebody contributes to it, of course. But overall, it's simply work in progress. And as I said, initially I had it as a closed system because I simply built it myself on the evenings. But since the beginning of the year, it is fully open source. It's MIT licensed and you can find it on GitHub. That means you can get the whole code, you can download it, you can host it yourself on your own server, and the documentation is I'm told fairly comprehensive, and people set it up usually without any problems. But as a tool, it is challenging because it is real-time infrastructure, so you actually have to have at least a little bit of familiarity with Linux server stuff and setting up larger tools. So it's not downloading and unpacking a thing, but you actually have to do a little bit of domain configuration and things like that. But in principle, everything's documented on the GitHub space. Yeah, and that's it. Just maybe as one clarification that I really want to be very clear about. So Liive as the open source thing and live.now as the website that you were just playing with. And I want to make this clarification also because you may have seen the pricing button. So Liive is, of course, totally free. Live.now has a paid plan. So Live.now is simply a website that I maintain and a server that I run for free for everybody, but it's kind of constrained and I have to pay for it myself. I still think it's the easiest way to use Liive. So if you really don't want to deal with the technology or with setting up your own stuff, just go to live.now. And for most people, I think just having one permanent storage space is probably enough. And that's it. You can have this paid plan, which will simply give you more storage space. And that's all. So apart from that, there is really no difference at all between the open source version and the version that's hosted on live.now. And it's simply a way for me to protect people using it in large production projects and letting me pay the bill for it. It's not expensive, so if you want to use it for a brief moment of time, it's probably still worth it because setting up your own server might still be a hassle. And if you, of course, if you pay for a plan, you're also supporting the open source project. So that's a benefit on the side. Yeah, that's just for clarification. And I think that's mostly it what I wanted to say. So I hope you have some questions and we can discuss a little bit more about it freely afterwards. Just some links that I want to, that I'll also put into the chat afterwards. So if you want to know or stay up to date with the latest news around Liive, so I maintain something which I call a blog on the Liive website, but it's really just an occasional article that I write every now and then. But there I publish, if anything's new about Liive, this is where I'll send a small note. And if you have any questions, there is also a user forum. It's not massively used, but it is used. So there is some traffic going on. If you have any questions or feature requests or something's not working the way you expect, then please feel free to go to live.featurebase.app. You'll also have the links on the footer of the pages of Liive. And I think there is also a link if you, let me just check quickly up here. Yeah, so there is also a link up here to the support forum. Last but not least, the GitHub place, let's maybe just open that quickly. So that's, as I said, a full self-hosting version of Liive. Yeah, it has a quick outline of what Liive is and how to set it up. Also explains a little bit about the differences between the hosted service and self-hosting options. And then most importantly, there is a self-hosting guide which is mostly here on a separate page. So if you want to look into this, as I said, it's not super easy, but it is easy if you have a little bit of, if you've ever kind of purchased your own virtual machine on a cloud host like DigitalOcean and know a few command line commands, it really steps you through everything, like also hardware requirements and pretty much every command line command that you need to do, configuration that you may have to make. So it's all there. And if you run into any problems, then also please feel free to reach out on the support forum, ideally, or just on the GitHub issue tracker here, which isn't used at all at the moment, but yeah. Okay, and that's it. It's just a second. Yeah, I'll start pasting those links in the chat. But meanwhile, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to hear them. Thank you.